Welcome back to another episode of Treasure Seekers Virtual Adventures. My name is Sarah with an H, and I'll be your host again today. Today's episode is a little bit different. We're taking you off the mangrove islands, and we're going to be interviewing one of the world-renowned shelling experts. Harlan Wittkopf is an author and co-author of several books about seashells and the ecosystem in the Sanibel area. So we're going to get to talk to him today about one of his specialties, the alphabet cone. Now don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms to follow our daily finds on the tours and see what all the guests are finding. Now let's get started with the interview. So we are here with Harlan Wittkopf. Harlan, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us today.
Well, happy to do it. We've been down on Sanibel to help people deal with the hurricane.
Yes, Hurricane Ian.
And to help people, in essence, fight insurance companies and do what we can to help. So this has worked out well.
Yeah.
We've been on Sanibel, and I'm here with my wife. But we've been on Sanibel for about 50 years, and that's how I started collecting.
Mm-hmm.
So
most of your books are written about the seashells from the Sanibel area, but specifically the alphabet cone.
Yes, that's been my favorite shell, especially, and that's why all the notoriety internationally, because of the my copyright on the seashell alphabet. But I have to say that I've spent a lot of time in you guys' area.
Mm-hmm, the 10,000 Islands, yeah.
That's right. Now, I can't say we visited very much the 10,000 Islands outside of Kais Island and Cape Romano. But that's kind of good news because everybody had bags full, buckets full, everything else. So why go past them?
Yeah,
you know,
it's a great
we didn't have a big
area.
enough boat, you know. So
yeah.
So yes, I've been there, and the neat thing about the alphabet cone, and also with what's happened with Sanibel, it's going to be very tough for a lot of years to get on it. I think in the world, the only place that you're going to find the alphabet cones and some of its color forms is going to be where you're at.
Yeah.
So a lot of my fans from all over the world have said, yeah, they want a link to this, by the way.
Yeah.
And that they're planning, if they want alphabet cones, this is where they got to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, so that was going to be one of my first questions. We obviously do find the alphabet cone in the 10,000 Islands. What other kinds of cone shells could we find there?
Okay, fine. We were just talking. You've got the Florida cone.
Yep, I got Florida cones right here.
And we'll do, I've got a couple real rare ones, a banded Florida cone and stuff. The two that most people would want would be the Florida cone and the alphabet cone.
Right.
Florida cone typically is smaller. It's usually all gold. There's the alphabet cone. The Florida cone has a higher spire. And so even though they're chunked up, it's easier to identify. Now there are smaller cones, 3 of them really. Jasper cone, I think you've got one there, don't you, Sarah?
I do. It's this little guy
and that's
right
about
here.
This is a big mouse cone, I believe. Whoop.
Yep.
Knocked over my belt. Yeah.
This is a mouse cone.
And typically, that's very large. Typically, they're half this size and they're grayer. And then you have what you call the Stearns cone, which is a real small one, and it's grayish. And, you know, not many people, they might just stand there and look at them and they won't pick them up. It's not the Florida cone or the alphabet cone.
Right.
So,
but today we're going to focus mostly on the alphabet cone because that is your specialty.
Well, yes, and it's become an international Everybody wants it. You'll be getting after this calls or bookings from Europe, because
Wow.
now the alphabet. When I first started, it was neat. Everybody knew I loved the alphabet cone, but now it's kind of. I've been in all kinds of magazines in England and whatever, all because of the alphabet cone.
So the alphabet cone itself
It's
is
now
becoming
internationally famous,
Yeah.
and the only place to get it is where you
Southwest
guys are.
Florida, yeah. Awesome. So even amongst the alphabet cone, though, you've been telling me that there are even more rare varieties of the alphabet cone. Let's talk
Right.
about that.
Okay, well, that's it. It goes by area. Now, they can move up into your area or move from the west to your area. And after my first book was published, and that was 25 years ago, I'm going to think in the second or third edition of the Kaleidoscope, I featured these cones from the Rosalind Bank. And they are unbelievable. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. But these could very easily move into your area. So at any point in time, these could come in. We can show how some are blotchy, some in the northern part of Florida are just straight lines of dots. All these different forms go by area, but they all intermingle. And so that's what's so neat about it.
Yeah, very cool. So we've got the area, that you find it changes the pattern, changes the darkness of the color, right?
And maybe the size.
Okay, the size too. You've got a baby one around here somewhere. It's in the,
yes, it's
the little
in,
bitty.
Yeah, they'll start out, and you've got the brochure, the eggs. They start in eggs.
And the yellow.
And then here is, I'm not sure, there's the little tiny baby.
So cute.
And that guy's about 9 months old.
Oh.
The capsules, as you can show them on the brochure, are about this size. But to get out and actually look like an alphabet cone, this guy's about 9 months old.
Wow.
And then he could, at some point in time, graduate into a tall, thin one at about 15 years old. Look at how thin that is. Or he could be, like a lot of my friends, a little fat, squatty one.
Ha! Cute.
So they really vary by size, shape, color. What I was saying, going north, not on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, they're totally ringed with dots.
Wow.
As you can see them. They look a little different than one with all the blotches and everything else. Now, the 10,000 Islands, I think you're going to find a lot more.
On the splotch, yeah, that's
blotchy.
Primarily what we find is the very hieroglyphic
And you might
looking.
find some that are now this was found on Kais Island.
Really?
That's your area.
Wow.
Now that's getting real close to what was here on Rosalind Bank.
Yeah.
Close to Honduras. And I mean, look at the blotches on that thing.
So orange.
So I think for sure on Kais Island and Romano, and I think 10,000 Islands, you're going to find more blotchy ones than more dotted ones.
Right, right.
So that's just what goes on with the alphabet cone. The other thing, and we can talk about that later, the form is the ultra, ultra rare gold-banded cone.
Yes, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be the next question.
So we've only seen a handful of those found in the 10,000 Islands over the last 10 years or so.
I think, from what I'm hearing, but you can't keep up to date on it, when I published the very first book, the first Kaleidoscope, in 1997, Tucker was still alive, and he's pictured with me. And he gave me the actual letter of pedigree. He named the gold-banded cone in 1951.
Wow.
And you have to have two to name a cone and all the biological things.
Sure.
He had three given to him. So the other one with the pedigree I brought with me, and it's here.
Yeah, let's see.
This is and it's in all of the books, and it's featured all over the world. This is the gold-banded cone in the 3 forms. Now I'm going to do this. I hope we can get it on here.
Yeah, we'll get
Here
closer.
is a beach-worn one that people might step over. You can see the bands. Here is one, and I think the only one in the world, that is almost alive. You see the periostracum? You remember what I said about the skin on it?
Right.
Okay, there it is. But it wasn't alive. You can see the bands. It is a gold-banded cone. But it wasn't alive, so they can't do the DNA, you know, to answer those questions. But then comes the pedigreed one.
Yeah.
This is the one that's in all the books, featured all around the world.
Beautiful.
And that was given to me by the one that named it, Tucker Abbott.
Wow.
So, and it's in all my books. But at any rate, there's your gold-banded. If you find one with a periostracum on it, it'll be one of maybe 2 or 3 in the world.
Wow.
One with full bands like this one, there may be a dozen to 2 dozen in the world. That's it.
Yeah, because they're
So
alphabet cones. They just have stripes instead of
the question
speckles.
is it a separate species? Or is it a color form of it? Or is it an aberration? Now, Tucker Abbott, in his field guide and when he named it, called it an aberration. Not a color form, that it just gets that way. It's just weird. Now, in documentation of that, you have this shell, and this is in my book. This is the alphabet cone. It's been injured, and it repairs itself, but after the injury, it's all banded. So you actually have the banding and the standard alphabet cone on the same cone.
Yeah, amazing.
Now this leads, and I'm not a scientist, I'm a lawyer, but it leads, Tucker's conclusion might be right. It's an aberration. Gets injured, and then all of a sudden it starts banding its markings.
Changed its spots.
Yeah, to bands.
Right.
Right.
Crazy.
But now the bands aren't totally collected. This is the newest part of the shell.
Right.
Like these are totally connected, even with a growth scar.
Right.
So you've got questions either way.
Sure.
Sometimes somebody will find a live one, and it'd be the most expensive thing in the world because you're not entitled to pick up a live one.
Right.
But the thing to do is, I've always said that would be very expensive for me because if I picked up a live gold-banded cone so they could do the scientific study, I'd put him in water, in a bottle, and call a helicopter.
Oh, wow.
And get him up to a
museum
or somebody that can do DNA. And then we'd know
for sure.
For sure, what type of an alpha. Is it an aberration? Is it a color form or a separate species?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the area. We have to look at pattern. Now, these have a different pattern. The patterns really lead to my notoriety, and that's the copyright on the Seashell alphabet, because that's the patterns. So you can pick one up and see, is there an A on it, a B on it, a C on it? Got them all over here. But I've graduated to looking for not just letters, but letters that form words and sentences.
Yes, let's see your sentence. I'm very excited. You told me all about this sentence you found.
Well, you thought it was for you, and that's why you're excited. Okay, if you look here closely, let's do it right to left.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. You look real close, Y-O-U. U, very simple, W-I-N, you win a new car.
Ha! You win a new car.
The alphabet cones spell it out right on theirs. And I have one that was on a TV special I did 8-10 years ago where I end the alphabet cones spell out I-O-W-A. Iowa.
Iowa, the state of Iowa.
And the kids that were there, it was with a bunch of, so schools could use the television thing, they shouted out in unison, Iowa! So it's been a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's been used in all kinds of schools.
Speaking of Iowa, you brought a different cone with you that has a
Oh, yeah.
Iowa-specific word on it, right?
No, not a word, a letter. I was walking down the beach, and maybe we'll show the jacket. Everybody the last 40 years knows my jacket. It's got alphabet cones running up and down or whatever. And this lady runs up to me, and she was fairly elderly, and taps me on the shoulder. She said, "Aren't you the author, the alphabet cone guy?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "Well, I've got one of your books. Could you sign it for me? And I've been saving a gift for you." And she didn't say how long. So she comes out with the book. I signed the book and gives me this. And I don't know if you can pick it up, but it's a juvenile fighting conch. It is not an alphabet cone, but it's got the letter of my first name, H, on it.
Oh, wow.
And so now and then in life, little things like that come up, and it's really neat, you know. Sometimes the notoriety is a little overbearing, especially for my wife. But we've had people come to the condo, want me to sign things or take pictures and whatever. But undoubtedly, they all want me to hold an alphabet cone. So it's hard for me to go anywhere in Europe or whatever without having an alphabet cone in my pocket.
So you've always got one.
Usually always.
Yeah.
For 25 years, I carried one with a J. And it had a perfect heart on it.
Is that for Jeannie, your wife?
That's for my wife.
That's for your wife. I
call her
love
the boss.
The boss.
You know. After 53 years, you just, you know.
That is awesome.
Now, I don't know. We talked about the periostracum, didn't we?
Not yet. So, in some degree. So they start out from eggs, they hatch out, they grow, you know, and you've actually got a display that shows what they look like on the inside.
How they grow.
Yes.
Okay, and these are the different forms that the standard alphabet cone are in because of growth, death, and liveliness, or, you know. You find, this is the standard alphabet cone. This is one with half of the periostracum. Alphabet cones, alive in nature, have a kind of a semi-hairy skin on them that comes off easily by the beach, or you can wipe it off. They start with a spindle. And the animal secretes the calcium, and it goes around and around. Now here you can see the spindle and actually what was the little alphabet cone. And after a while it dissolves, but it always has at least one ring inside, and you can see them.
Yeah.
If they're beachworn, now this actually is the inner shell. If you turn this over, the birds and crabs have knocked off the outer shell, and it still maintains its color. The inner cone shape, you see. And you can see it in here, whatever. And then they're live. I have no idea how big they are when they get the skin coloring, the periostracum. You can see the baby, you'll not find a baby with it on. The smallest one I've ever found, well, it's still be like wouldn't be even a teenager in terms of size. That's why it's in the magnifying glass. You can look, you can see this has the skin on it, which is faded. But that's just about the smallest you're ever going to find with the periostracum on. Now, it's neat because tons of collectors don't know about it. This is the full skin, or the periostracum on it. And in the water, you can see how black it is on the well. This guy was almost alive. It's full of barnacles, but you can see the blackness on it. That's part of the periostracum. This, and I've got pictures in one of the magazines of me holding it, it looks like a black shell. In the water, this is black. And as it stays out, it'll turn this way, and you can wipe it off, and then you're going to end up with something like this.
Yeah. Now, the removal of the periostracum, as you say, is fairly easy to do, but sometimes that happens in nature too, right? You'll find
almost all the time it does. That's why you find all the alphabet cones without it. It's very rare to find one full. You'll find them, you know, partial. See, even this giant one has partial of the skin. I mean, every alphabet cone has it on except infants.
And
now,
even
the key of it is you don't want to pick up live shells. So If you find one with a periostracum on it, it's very simple. All you have to do is smell it. If it doesn't smell and it's got the periostracum, you better throw it back. Sometimes you can tell by weight if an animal in it. But if it's got, that means it hasn't been rolling around in the surf and it doesn't smell, you probably want to leave it.
Right.
So, contrary to what a lot of people think, if you find one, which is ultra rare, I mean, it's really neat to have one, smell it and it stinks.
Yes.
That's actually good news.
Yes, it does.
You keep that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Nothing
does.
quite like it. Now, it's important to note, of course, that they can be venomous, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
all cones are, and I have some up at our our home up in Iowa that have actually killed people.
Really?
People have sent them to me.
The alphabet cones.
Not alphabet cones.
Oh, okay.
They're in the Pacific, usually in the Zulu Sea, which is just south of the Philippines.
Right.
And you've got the geographic cone, all of those kind of cones that are normally found only by divers.
Right.
And they pick them up, and there's still a ton of research on them. And the alphabet cone hunts by throwing out like a miniature harpoon.
Right.
That has got venom in it. And and people, even here in Florida, the alphabet cone is not deadly poisonous, but if you would get stung by an alphabet cone and are allergic to bees, that's a tough
bad
deal.
news.
That's really a tough deal. It still won't kill you. But in the Pacific, some of those cones are deadly poisonous, and you're talking less than 30 seconds, the death.
Right. Ooh.
It affects your ability to breathe. And scientists to this day are doing all kinds of research on cones to see what would be how they could counteract the venom or use the venom in other type of things.
Right, of course.
Aggressive type of things.
Right.
But
in Florida, their toxicity is harmful but not deadly.
Yeah, and I don't think it would. I've never been stung, and I don't think there's any. I'm virtually willing to bet there's nobody in the state of Iowa except for Amy Tripp on Marco Island that has picked up more alphabet cones than I have, and I've never been stung. But if you are, I don't even think it's as powerful as a bee sting.
Okay.
But the only ones affected are the ones that are
allergic to bees.
Allergic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Well, good
So
to know.
for all the people, that's why I'm doing this, to make alphabet cone hunters out of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's one of God's beautiful creations. It's really neat. But I wouldn't worry about being stung unless you're allergic to bee stings.
Okay.
That's
good to know.
That's a neat deal.
Yeah.
So
the alphabet cone, you were telling me before, is predominantly found in Southwest Florida, and there's a similar cone shell that you can find near Honduras that's making its way over.
That's what I showed you, that it probably will. It is the alphabet cone.
Okay.
But it comes from, but it's totally different. These are ultra rare things.
Yeah, look how
Look
dark.
at, there is full, look at the size and look at the pattern. And the one that I just love that I got, I'll put these two totally different.
And these are
you
from
can see,
the Roslyn Bank.
Roslyn Bank off the coast of Honduras.
Okay.
Which could end up in the 10,000 Islands, depending on how many hurricanes.
Right.
But if you look, there is, I call it the chocolate bandit. We talked about the gold bandit.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that looks like a painting.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Yeah. So, you know, the alphabet cone has got even more beauty than you can imagine. But those are, it goes by area, like I said, the dotted ones. And
yeah. So talk to me about any deformities. I mean, we talked a little bit about how the golden banded cone could be an aberration.
Right.
What about the normal alphabet cones that have something funky going on? Maybe repaired weird?
Or just an aberration.
We've got some here that you showed me a second ago.
Yeah, did I show you the ones with the...
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Okay. The alphabet cone, you don't find a lot of them that repair themselves, but all seashells can repair themselves. You'll find a lightning whelk that's got the siphon canal.
It's like
looks,
bent, yeah.
you know, like Jeannie curls her hair.
Right.
You know. Now here's one with a high spire. That is the regular alphabet cone, but it's got a spire like the Florida cone, the high spire. You see?
Right.
Look at that. Now that is an abnormality. Then you have some on the shell itself, and I call them pregnant ones, which the shell bulges up.
Yeah, look at that.
See?
Huh.
It's like there's something under the calcium.
Right.
The most popular and rarest repair is when something happens to them that takes, in essence, their head off. They start again with like a new head.
Wow.
These are alphabet cones. It looks like they're growing out of the other cone. Now that's how the shell repairs itself. Now these are weird because obviously they wouldn't have a periostracum on, so there's a good chance that these could be alive. It's ultra rare if you find them like this.
Right.
You showed me a picture that looked like it had a periostracum on.
Yes.
You better check to see if that was alive or not.
We did.
Oh, you did?
So we'll show you guys in the video overlay. One of our guests found an alphabet cone that was a little deformed on the top, not quite as defined as this
guy,
but you can see the periostracum on it, and it was empty. So it was a great find for that guest for sure. But it's so cool to see how they repair themselves in different ways, and each one is unique. They're truly one of a kind when they're like that.
Absolutely, they repair. You know, that'd be like if somebody cut your head off, and all of a sudden you get to grow it back.
Yeah, that would be pretty unusual.
Yeah. You might be able to choose your hair color.
Yeah, well, that would be nice. Well, okay, so talk to me about this one. I'm very excited about this one.
This one...
we'll take the dome off. Here we go.
To my knowledge, and, you know, there could be something. We talk about pattern, color, whatever. This is a true albino alphabet cone. And to my knowledge, it's the only one. Well, it's the only one I'm aware of.
I haven't seen any myself.
Real fortunate to have it. What I've done a number of years ago, I was at the shell fair and signing books like I've been doing for 25 years. And these people are coming over to me and saying, can you sign a stamp? Well, what happened is, and I think it was 5 years ago, and I got a letter from the Postal Service after my inquiry. They came out with 4 stamps that are forever stamps. And they had to pick, you know, there's a lot of seashells in America.
Right.
But I found out, and that was after I did the Alfie book, and I've got the copyright of this, and all of a sudden the alphabet cone is popular over even in Europe. The first one they picked was the alphabet cone. Not the Junonia, not anything else.
Wow.
And I found out about it, and I've got correspondence. So during that year, I was signing my name to all these stamps. You know, so what I did, albinos don't come with a U.S. stamp featuring the alphabet cone on, but I'm letting people know.
You stuck it on.
This is ultra, 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 ultra rare.
Yeah.
He put it in the same category as the gold-banded cone.
Gold-banded, yeah.
And I haven't ever seen, you know, people come up and they think, oh man, I got one, but you can tell the difference between a beach-worn shell if it's white because of beach wear.
Yeah, there's a feel to it as well. They're really dry when they're older, bleached out. The albinos are like hydrated, smooth, bright
just
white.
Like that. It's unbelievable. And the other thing that's so neat about this shell, shells get this big, there's a good chance, even this ultra rare gold-banded cone, they'll have growth marks in them.
Right, yeah.
And they automatically fix them themselves. It's like you having a scar. You quit bleeding, but there's a scar. Well, this fabulous albino does not have one growth mark, anything.
Amazing.
Yeah.
One of a kind.
So, anybody that finds one of these in the 10,000
Let us know.
just trade it even up for the boat you're riding.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Wow.
Right. They'd probably get the job done. You guys know about that stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, in the 10,000 Islands, we do find lots of alphabet cones, and usually because they're a little denser and they're round or kind of a heavier shell, they typically roll down into the lower regions of the dunes. So you might find them buried in the water or in the soft mud a lot. And it's important to note that the periostracum, that thin membrane that almost looks black, might be hiding the pattern. So if you're always looking for pattern, for our newer shellers too, you know, keep in mind that that skin might hide the pattern a little bit. So look for that black skin too, because that'll usually be a good indicator you've got an alphabet cone there.
And then make sure again that it's not
dead.
alive.
Yes, never collect live shells.
What you said earlier, that when you found it wasn't alive. That's because you guys know the difference of the weight. But a novice,
yeah, it's hard to see.
If one with a whole lot of periostracum on it can't get a smell, you might be safer to, you can feel they're heavier.
Yeah.
But when you talk about pattern, I was going to show you, some are ultra unbelievable. Here's a pattern with would be good in a geometry class. It's a full rectangle, and you're just not going to find that anywhere. And you turn it around, and there's a circle with an H.
Oh, an H for Sarah with an H. Okay.
Or my name.
Or your name. Or for Harlan.
Okay. And then I've had a lot of people say, do a display that somebody lost its ink. This one, you'll see the the spots and everything else. And there's some letters even on this one. But all of a sudden,
it stopped.
The animal quit in this area.
Yeah.
So, and I would said, yep, the animal ran out of ink, except there's some on the bottom.
Right.
It's really weird. But those, you can find these interesting patterns on alphabet cones and on no other shells.
Yeah, wow.
So in terms of just running with the imagination, seeing letters, seeing different patterns, the alphabet cone is the only way to go.
Yeah, amazing.
So.
All right. Well, Harlan, I just wanted to thank you again. And you can usually get the brochure that Harlan has made at the Sanibel Shell Museum.
Free.
And it's free to you. It has pictures of the entire seashell alphabet and the numbers, I believe.
That's right.
As well as pictures of the egg casings, which are pretty neat. We encourage you to take a look at those. Now, the Sanibel Shell Museum, the Bailey Matthews Shell Museum, has been affected by Hurricane Ian. So do you want to share a little bit about what
there was some damage to the roof. Just recently, the bottom of the museum, they put aquariums in the whole thing. I'm a Charter Life member, by the way. That's how I got to know Tucker Abbott, who started me in this journey with 13 books now. Took his place. But the Sanibel Bailey Matthews Shell Museum needs as much help as you can get. You can go online. And there's different places where you can donate or become maybe another member or something. But it was really weird because they were listed as the next best thing to a hurricane shelter with the new museum.
Really?
And now it just unbelievable damage.
Yeah.
The part of the roof is gone. That screws everything up. As a matter of fact, they had to have a lot of volunteers to move all these shells that they were housing. The archives. And I know them all there, and they know me. Dr. Leal I got some correspondence from him. They're going to need all the help they get. So for all you shell collectors, get a hold of the Bailey Matthews Shell Museum.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Sarah has. I don't have their website, right on.
We'll put all the links in the description of the video, as well as the links to your books. We'll get some close-up pictures of the covers, too, so that everybody can see what you've worked with. But, again, thank you so much for taking time with us today.
Happy to do it. Yes. Anybody that picks up an alphabet cone, watch out if I'm not behind you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Everyone, that's it for today's episode on Treasure Seekers Virtual Adventures, focusing on the alphabet cone. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more educational episodes as they are released. Now, we'll see you on the island.